All right, welcome everyone to this special session of the Strive Life Summit. This is a live Q&A with Curtis Morley. We're here to discuss his presentation from victim to victor. So welcome to the panel, Curtis.
Thanks so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I think your presentation is incredible. It's one that we all need to watch and review and consider in our lives because that victimhood mentality is so prevalent, right? It's so easy to fall into that. And so I love your message and your own spin on it. For anyone that hasn't watched it yet, go do so. It's a one you don't want to miss out on. But I want to hand it over to you to give us a little recap for anyone who maybe hasn't seen it yet so that they're caught up to speed. So yeah, let's get into it.
Sounds great. So one of the most brilliant people in the world, Albert Einstein, he he has a famous quote that he says, "The difference in life is whether I believe the universe is hostile or I live in a friendly universe." And that statement is astounding because Gallup actually did a poll around this idea of do you think the universe is out to get you? Do you think that the universe is hostile? Or do you think the universe is friendly and the universe is on your side and ready to help you out? And it was astonishing because 85% of the people said the universe was hostile. And 85% of the people said, I live in a place where I'm a victim to the universe. I'm a victim to my circumstances. I'm a victim to life. And it's incredible because when we look at life and we see that life actually is for our benefit, that life is on our side, that the universe it conspires to be on our side, then it changes everything. I mean, you look at Einstein and his theories are just now being proven because the technology wasn't even there back in the day. And they're, with the all of the crazy advancements that Einstein predicted, and even down to circling black holes. I mean, the guy was incredible. And he had a view of life that the universe is friendly and the universe is on his side. And it's so easy in life to be in that victim mindset. It's so easy to say, you know what, life is happening to me and I don't get a say in this and woe is me. And we focus on the problems of life instead of the solutions. And that's one of the key ways to know if I'm playing the victim or if I've stepped up to become a victor. And being a victor is the major difference. If you look at anyone that has seen incredible success, they didn't say, I'm going to be a victim to life. They said, I'm going to be a victor. And guess what? Life is here for me instead of happening to me. And that's the major difference is understanding that one question, or I guess shifting that one question is a better way to say it, because things happen in life that are painful. Things happen in life that are hard. Things happen in life that we go, man, I wish that I didn't have to go through this. And when that happens, it's as simple as asking the question or changing the question from why did this happen to me to how is this happening for me? And instead of looking at it negatively and looking at it as if, we're the victim to the universe, we can look at it as if this entire experience is set up just for us. This entire experience we call life is made so that we can grow, that we can learn, that we can succeed. And changing that one question of how can this happen or why is this happening to me to how is this happening for me? That's the difference. That's what changes everything in life. And I didn't bring this up in the presentation, but there's actually one more step So at the bottom is victim. And when we ask, how is life happening for me? We can elevate and transcend to victor. But there's one more step. And that final step is vessel. And we can ask not only, how is this happening for me? But we can ask the question, how can this happen through me? And we can not only say, in the victim state, we're all about the problem and and there's nothing we can do. In the victor state, we're all about learning and growing and looking at how this can be positive. In the vessel state, we don't look at that just for us, we look at it for others. We say, how can others benefit from my experience? How can others become more or learn more or grow more through what I'm going through? And that's when you reach that upper stage of transcendence, is when you say, not only am I going to be a victor, but I'm also going to be a vessel.
I love that. So as a way of passing forward or moving forward, and helping others through the experiences you've had, through what you've gained, I think that's so powerful, and I mean that it's obviously the goal for all of us to be able to get there. Um, just out of curiosity, and as a way of maybe speaking for those who would say, well, that sounds great, but my life is kind of, I feel like I've been beaten down. The things that I've tried haven't worked, and I keep failing, and so I would love to adopt the mentality that I can just flip it and ask a different question. But life, in some way, right? This is what I imagine some people are thinking, has proven that it's not that easy, right? So how do you go from, wanting to believe in that to actually being able to when you feel so beaten down, maybe? What would you say for those people?
Yeah, yeah. I'm really glad you asked that question because a lot of people are, it's funny because I've given a similar presentation in front of um, giant conference rooms full of, full of people, or to corporations where, we'll have hundreds of people there, and they'll say, well, that's good and fine for you, but that's not my life. And my life is so much harder, or my life is, you don't understand. And it really is a choice. It really is as simple as making a choice to shift the mindset. And whenever I hear this question, well, how can you do that, or how can I do that? My life is so horrible. And I look at Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, one of my top five books that is on my bookshelf, and I've got hundreds. And um, this book is so seminal because he went through the worst conditions, the most atrocious conditions known to human history. It wasn't just my milk went bad in the fridge or I lost my job. We're talking about being in the Auschwitz camp or concentration camps, where they were actually, the bed bugs and the lice were so thick that they became grateful because they were almost like a blanket to keep them warm. I mean, talk about disgusting and
Wow.
conditions, and every day being beaten physically, being beaten every single day. And their rations of food was, they called it bread, but it was a little biscuit about that big, and what they called soup, where if you got a pea in this warm water, you felt like you were the king of the world because you got a single pea in your soup. And that was their full day's rations, was a little cup of soup with maybe a pea in it, a little crusty piece of bread. That's it. That's all they got. We're talking about like a couple hundred calories for the whole day, and being beaten and watching their loved ones being killed in front of them. Like I can't imagine a worse condition. And in that condition, Viktor Frankl said that everything can be taken from us, but the last of human freedoms. And that is the ability to choose one's own attitude in any given set of circumstances. Any given set of circumstances. We're not talking about, we're not talking about, well, I've got, I had a bad day or I lost my job. We're talking about the worst conditions known to human history. And he still said it's a choice that we get to choose our attitude and our actions in any given set of circumstances.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I have read that book. It's one of my favorites as well. It really puts things into perspective that we don't have it nearly as bad as some people. It can always get worse. And yet choosing our response, like you said, is so empowering in even the worst situations. I'm really curious as to, you know, um, I mean, I think it's incredible, and you've made it your mission to share this message and others. And so you've clearly made that transition to being a vessel now. But I'm curious as to what really motivated you. What was the catalyst in your life that set you on this journey, that made you feel like I need to share these messages with others? Where did that start?
Yeah, um, it started with pain. It started with a whole lot of pain. Um, about 7 years ago, I went through the hardest trial of my life, which was going through a really difficult divorce. And it rocked my world. It was pain that I didn't know I could feel. It was pain in the bottom reaches of my soul that brought me not only to my knees, but to weeping in the kitchen floor uncontrollably. And it was so much pain that I actually had to reframe my concept of pain. I didn't even know how to deal with the amount of pain that was heaped on me. And in my life, I always had this concept in my brain that on one side of this wall was pain. On the other side of this wall was joy and love. And there's a big, strong wall right in the middle. And you either get to be on the pain side or you get to be on the joy side. And you don't get both. They don't cross. There's no way to put these two together. And I'm Christian. I have a very strong belief in God and Jesus Christ. And as I was there on the floor sobbing, I felt Christ's arms wrap around me, and I felt something I've never felt before. I felt pain in the extreme, so much so I just wanted a mountain to fall on top of me. And at the same time, I felt joy and I felt love. And I realized that what I was calling pain over here wasn't pain. What I was calling pain was actually misery. That on this side of the wall was misery, but I get to choose which side of the wall I put pain on. I can either bury my pain underneath that misery and just smother it in this black goo, this black tar called misery, which is based in two emotions, blame and shame. Or I could pull that pain out of the misery and I could put it on the side of joy and love. I get to choose. I get to choose which side of the wall it goes on. And if I put it on this side of the wall, then I get to elevate and honor that pain. And it's not a concept that is comfortable. It's not a comfortable concept of putting pain together with joy and love, but it's possible. And unfortunately, it took me till I was over 40 before I understood this concept that joy, love, and pain can all exist together. And when we do that, when we put pain on the side of love, when we put pain on the side of joy, then it becomes a sacred sorrow. When we bury it underneath misery, it just becomes this horrendous life wrecking experience. But when we put it on the side of love and joy, that sorrow becomes sacred and it becomes cleansing. It actually cleanses our souls. And and so I was going through this experience with myself, and I had a friend, Jerry Williamson, who I apologize. It still hurts. He was also going through he was also going through a divorce. And he didn't understand the difference between pain and misery. He didn't understand the difference between guilt and shame. And he didn't understand the difference between recovery and sobriety. And Jerry left us. He left this world in a way that I'm not okay with. I am not okay with that. And at the time I had written a book called The Entrepreneur's Paradox, and it hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller and all of this stuff. And my publisher wanted a 3-book series. And I called him up and I said, I need to stop writing the second book. I need to write a very different book. And that book is Counterfeit Emotions. The idea that every emotion that serves us has a counterfeit, except for one. There's one emotion that doesn't, and that emotion is peace. It's the only emotion that can't be counterfeited. And there's so many reasons why, but one of my favorite is the neuroscience of peace. The neuroscience of peace is fascinating because every emotion is based in a sensory perception. Every one of them, except for peace. If you look at excitement, it's full of dopamine and adrenaline. If you look at sadness, you've got cortisol and you've got other emotions. Every single emotion has some brain chemical or some chemical in the body that says this is the emotion I'm feeling, except for peace. Peace has no sensory perception. Peace has no brain chemical. And the scientists don't know why. They don't know why we feel peace. Now, I've definitely got some strong beliefs around why we do. Um, but the scientists, they said we we can't explain it. It's almost like the lack of all other emotions, and then what's left is peace. And so it's fascinating. But with counterfeit emotions, what I've done is I've identified 36 different, I call them dyads or pairings. So the authentic and the counterfeit. And there's 36 of these. We talked about a couple of them. Guilt versus shame. Guilt is so beautiful. Guilt is a healthy, important emotion that we couldn't have civilized society without. Shame is its insidious counterpart. There's one that blows people's brains up. They're just like, what is that? Nice is the counterfeit of kind. And most of us grow up with this idea of be nice, be nice, be nice. I mean, we just had Christmas and Santa even has his naughty and nice list, right? He's
Right.
got his naughty and nice list. And so we're taught from a young age to be nice. But what it turns out is that nice is nothing more than it's a defense mechanism to avoid conflict. That's all it is. It's putting on this big smile, placating to others and saying, "Hey, I'm going to be super nice, but stay over there. Don't come any closer, but I'll smile at you and I'll be polite." Whereas kind leans in. Kind is willing to have hard conversations in love. Kind is an amazing emotion. It's truly transcendent. And kind is always inviting. Whereas nice is super smiley and, used car salesman. But a super simple example of that um, is the spinach in the teeth, right? The nice person will be like, oh, I don't want to embarrass them. Oh, I'm not going to say anything. And then they let them get embarrassed by 13 other people around the room. Whereas the kind person pulls you aside and like, hey, there's spinach in your teeth. And it's like, oh, thank you so much. It may be uncomfortable, but the kind person is willing to have that conversation because they're not afraid of the conflict. And kind not only resolves conflict, but it transforms conflict into connection. And it's a beautiful, beautiful emotion. And so, yeah, so that's when I made the decision that I'm going to actually change the direction of my life from the entrepreneur coaching to helping people find the one emotion that has no counterfeit, and that's peace.
Wow, I love that. This has been such an incredible conversation. Just the things that you share are, like you said, kind of mind blowing. Because I don't think we stop and consider these things often enough. Um, and and most people like you said, encouraging us to just be nice all the time, and which doesn't allow us to really tap into those genuine emotions, like you said. So I love that. I love your message. I love everything you're sharing with people. I really appreciate you being vulnerable and being willing to open up as you have. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you've got to go. It doesn't look like we've got any questions from the chat. But I really appreciate you. Your presentation is amazing. For anyone that hasn't watched that yet, go and do so. For anyone who wants to connect with Curtis, we have his speaker profile up on our website, or depending on where you're watching this, we'll have links in the description underneath this video. So thank you so much for being here, Curtis. And for anyone watching this, thank you. Uh, I really appreciate you. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect and have this interaction and be able to share this message with others. So thank you so much again, Curtis.
Thanks, Nino. Thanks, everyone. See ya.